Another great truth President Kennedy told us this years ago is that life owes us nothing. Life isn't fair. Never was, and it's never going to be. You might do the work, somebody else gets the credit. You may work twice as hard as your neighbor, and you know you're twice as smart as he or she is, but you also happen to know that he or she is making twice the money you are. There are many times in life when we get a bad hand dealt to us. How do you play a bad hand when you get one? Do you hang on, refusing to quit, even though there's no guarantee you'll succeed? Or do you whine and you pity yourself because you are convinced that your problems are so much more terrible than anybody else's? Poor baby. Years ago, when I was editing Success and lived in Chicago, I developed a lovely friendship with a man called Wilton Hall, who had his own little magazine down in South Carolina called Quote. It was a monthly magazine, contained a whole bunch of quotes each month, and it was great. Wilton sent me this card. This is the actual card that I've had, I don't know, 25, 30 years. It's not going to fall apart. But I fell in love with this thing. And I've shared it with I don't know how many audiences since then, but I use it for me too. Because whenever I hit things during the day that aren't going exactly the way I want them to go, poor baby, again, and I start to feel sorry for myself for some dumb reason or other, about 3 minutes with this little paper straightens me right out. And I'd like to share it with you tonight. It's called Lord, Forgive Me When I Whine. Today upon a bus, I saw a lovely girl with golden hair. I envied her. She seemed so gay and wished I were as fair. When suddenly she rose to leave, I saw her hobble down the aisle. She had one leg and wore a crutch, but as she passed, a smile. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 legs. The world is mine. I stopped to buy some candy. The lad who sold it had such charm. I talked with him. He seemed so glad. If I were late, 'twould do no harm. And as I left, he said to me, I thank you. You have been so kind. It's nice to talk with folks like you. You see, he said, I'm blind. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 eyes. The world is mine. Later, while walking down the street, I saw a child with eyes of blue. He stood and watched the others play. He did not know what to do. I stopped a moment, and then I said, why don't you join the others, dear? He looked ahead without a word. And then I knew. He couldn't hear. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 ears. The world is mine. With feet to take me where I'd go, with eyes to see the sunsets glow, with ears to hear what I would know. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I'm blessed indeed. The world is mine. We sure do forget to count our blessings, don't we? And any morning that you awake, and this happens to the most powerful, dynamic individual, so don't feel it's just you. Any morning that you awake and you don't want to go out there and face that terrible, cruel world, you don't want to go out there and make that first sales call, you don't want to go down and face that ugly boss in the office, you don't want to go anywhere. You just assume go into the closet, pull the door closed, suck your thumb, stay there. Happens to everybody. I see a lot of nodding heads, but it happens to everybody. It happens to the most powerful individual. I'm going to give you a prescription that will knock all of that out of your mind and send you out there with blue sky and sunshine and birds singing and music, and it'll work every day. And it'll never fail, and it won't cost you a penny. And it's going to do more for you than your steak and eggs and your orange juice or your coffee and anything to get you out there with the right frame of mind to do a good day's work. The next morning that you awake with this attitude, you know, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to even get out of my pajamas. I just want to stay put. I don't want to do anything. And it happens to everybody, not just... Here's all you have to do to change that around in 10 minutes and send you out into the world like the person you are and the person you can be. All you have to do to change that mood is pick up your morning newspaper. Now, under no circumstances should you look on the front page, because then you really want to get in the closet and hide. So forget the front page and just open your newspaper. Just open your newspaper to the page with the death notices on it. And on that page, you will find a long list of names of people who would be absolutely delighted to change places with you with all of your little aggravations and heartaches and pains. Try it. I guarantee you it'll work. And it won't cost you a penny. Another secret, I'm going to hit close to home with this one. Failures always seem to act as if they had 1,000 years to live. Why? Because they have no confidence at all that they can handle today's challenges today. And how do they avoid ever challenging themselves? 100 different ways. Some of them drink too much. Some of them party too much. Some of them sleep 2 to 6 hours a night more than they need. And others spend endless hours doing crossword puzzles or jigsaw puzzles or sitting in front of that television set. Don't worry, they'll tell you. I'll take care of everything tomorrow. I've been around this whole planet a long time, and I've seen a lot of calendars. But I have never yet seen a calendar with a tomorrow on it. Never treat time as if you had an unlimited supply. None of us have a contract with life. About 2 months ago in Mexico City to about 12,000, I told them, there's no tomorrow. And you should have seen panic set in. They're all looking at each other going, no mañana, there's no mañana, there's no mañana. Almost started a riot. You've heard this 1,000 times. But try to live each day as if it's the only one you're going to have. And that's wonderful to do. But this other part you haven't heard 1,000 times, and it's just as important. And I would love to see all of you try it tomorrow morning. It is wonderful to live every day as if it's the only one you're going to have. But try this tomorrow morning and watch your life change. Watch your life change almost immediately. Tell yourself that beginning tomorrow morning, by the time, even when you crawl out of bed, starting with the people in your own family, and then people all day long, the people you work with, strangers you meet during the day, the person who waits on you in the stores, everybody you meet starting tomorrow, you're going to treat like you never treated them before. You're going to treat each one of them as if you knew a deep, dark secret about them. And the deep, dark secret is that they were going to be dead at midnight. Now, think about this a minute. If you met me tomorrow morning and you knew that at midnight, I'm out of here, you would treat me, I know you would, with more love, with more care, with more consideration than you ever normally would treat me. And what do you suppose I'd give back to you? You're right, exactly the same. More love, more care, and more consideration than you would have ever normally got from that person or from me. And if you did that all day long with everyone you met, and you did it the next day, and the next day, tell me your life wouldn't change for the better. I dare you. And what would it cost you? Nothing. You're right. You can change your life with that one little principle. Another great truth from the past: if you want to succeed, you have got to learn to live with failure. Mistakes, blunders, defeats, you can't avoid them. But if you let them make you gun shy, so that once you get beat, once you get knocked down, you're afraid to try again, you're making a terrible, terrible mistake. Mark Twain, many years ago, wrote the story about this cat who one day, for want of something better to do, jumped up on a hot stove and burned his tummy. That cat never jumped up on a hot stove again. But you know what? Cat never jumped up on a cold stove either. So many times in life, experience can actually be harmful to you if it prevents you from trying again. Just remember that even the most successful lives have chapters of failure. And the only ones who never fail, we know who they are. The ones who never try. Years ago, I was editing Success Unlimited magazine in Chicago, and it was the year, you baseball fans will appreciate this, you baseball fans will know there was a year when Hank Aaron was getting ready to break Babe Ruth's lifetime home run record. Hank had 710 and needed 5 more, and I'm sitting in my office in Chicago, and I got this crazy idea, and I called his ball club. They gave me the promotion man, publicity man, and I identified myself, and I said, now, I know he has 710 home runs, and he needs 5 more to break Babe Ruth's all-time record, but I've been sitting here wondering, lifetime, how many strikeouts does Aaron have? And he said, strikeouts, sir? And I said, yeah. He said, I got to put you on hold for that one. So he did for 4 or 5 minutes, and then he came back on the line, and he said, as of last night, Aaron has 710 home runs, needs 5 more to break Babe Ruth's record. And I said, I know that. And he has 1,264 strikeouts. And I thought, wow, here's an analogy I'm going to use for the rest of my life. Because here's the greatest home run hitter who has ever lived. Who has ever lived. And even he had to strike out almost twice for every time he hit a home run. Yeah, life is a game, but you don't have to hit a home run every time in order to be a winner. And if you don't believe me, you ask Hank. Another secret, at least I'm afraid this is still a secret to so many. No man or woman is an island. Success can absolutely not be achieved alone. There is no such thing as a self-made man or a self-made woman. All of us need help to achieve, to grow, or to recover from a disaster. But Lillian Roth, those of you old-timers will remember, was a great stage personality in the early 40s. And Lillian saw one of the most promising careers in theatrical history go down the drain because of her drinking. She lost everything. And years later, when she was recovering, she wrote a marvelous book that became a great movie that I know many of you have seen called I'll Cry Tomorrow. In Lillian's book, she wrote that she was absolutely powerless to do one little thing toward changing the miserable conditions in her life until she was finally able to say 3 little words. I need help. All of us need help. Nobody, underlined, makes it all alone. Back in the 15th century, in a little village in the suburbs of Nuremberg in Germany, was a family with 15 children, 15 kids. Daddy worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table for this army. 2 of the sons, 2 of the boys had a dream. They were both very talented. artist-wise. They were great with their pencils and their pens. And they both wanted to go to the art academy in Nuremberg. And yet they both knew full well there was no way to depend on Daddy for any help at all financially. There was no money to send them to the academy. So these two kids were pretty sharp. They worked up a pact. The pact was easy. They would toss a coin. The loser would go down to work in the mines. And with part of his earnings, he would support the winner. That brother would go to the art academy. And the brother working in the mines would support him for 4 years. And then when that brother graduated, either with his artwork by then if he was that good, or if he had to, he'd go into the mines, they'd change places, and they'd both have their degree. And so one day, these two very special boys tossed a coin. Their names are very similar. Albrecht Dürer won the toss. Albert Dürer lost. Albert went down into the mines, and Albrecht went off to the academy where he was almost an immediate sensation. His line drawings, his engravings, his oils, his watercolors, after the first year were better than anything any of his professors could do. He was just a natural genius. And the years passed, and Albrecht graduated and came home to a wonderful celebration out on the lawn. The table piled high with food, the whole family there. And at the proper moment, Albrecht stood with his glass of wine to drink a toast to his beloved brother Albert for the years of sacrifice. And he finished by saying, "And now, Albert, now it's your turn. Now you can go to the academy, and I will take care of you." And all eyes turned down the other end of the table, because Albert was still sitting, his hands over his face, and he was shaking his head back and forth, and they all heard him say, "No, no, no." And finally he stood, and he wiped the tears from his cheeks. And he said, "No, dear brother, it's too late for me. You see what 4 years in the mines have done to my hands? I have smashed every finger at least once. And by now I have arthritis so bad in my right hand that I can't even hold the wine glass to return your beautiful toast, much less hold a pen or a brush. It's too late for me." 400 years have passed, and by now Albrecht Dürer's work hangs in every great museum in the world, and yet I'll wager that most of you know Albrecht Dürer for only one of his masterpieces, because one day, to honor his beloved brother, Albrecht painted his brother's hands. He called it hands in the beginning, but through the centuries, all of us have lovingly called it the praying hands. The next time you see that masterpiece, take another look. Look at the fingers, and let it remind you, if you need to be reminded again, that nobody makes it alone. Of course, all of us have our own set of praying hands if you stop to think about it, huh? You know, all you have to do is put those palms together, stick the fingers out a little bit, raise your eyes. Don't be afraid to say, "I need help." You'd be surprised how close help is if you ask for it. Take it from one who knows. One more secret, and I pray to God that you remember this next week, next month, next year, as you keep chasing after those two very elusive butterflies called success and happiness. Failures spend so much of their time reliving their past mistakes or worrying about tomorrow's problems that they really and truly let this beautiful day, which is all we've got, get away. I want to share something very special with you. Something written by an 82-year-old looking back on her life. I want to share this with you in the very worst way. If I had my life to live over, I'd try to make more mistakes next time. I would relax. I would limber up. I would be crazier than I've been on this trip. I know very few things I'd take seriously anymore. I'd certainly be less hygienic. I would take more chances. I would take more trips. I would scale more mountains. I would swim more rivers. And oh, how I would watch more sunsets. I would eat more ice cream and fewer beans. I would have more actual troubles and fewer imaginary ones. You see, I was one of those people who lived sensibly and sanely, hour after hour and day after day. Oh, I've had my moments. And if I had it to do all over again, I'd have many more of them. In fact, I try not to have anything else. Just moments, one after another, instead of living so many years ahead of my day. I've always been one of those people who never went anywhere without a thermometer, a hot water bottle, a goggle, a raincoat, and a parachute. If I had it to do all over again, I'd travel lighter, much lighter than I have. And I would start barefoot earlier in the spring. And I'd stay that way later in the fall. And I would ride more merry-go-rounds and catch more gold rings and greet more people and pick more flowers and dance more often. If I had it to do all over again. But you see, I don't. Well, like that old Japanese mother, I hope I've been able to break a couple of branches for you tonight to help you in case you wandered off course. And Mr. X and Ms. X, wherever you are out there, don't you dare give up. You're too precious to lose. You just grab a life preserver. And just, if things get real tough, just remind yourself that if Mandino can make it, you can make it. I love you all. Thank you for being so nice to me. God bless you.